All right, so this is geometry. Review 1 through 25. Part dos. Okay, number 7. Number 7 is going to talk to you about two triangles. Give me 3 letters. ABC. I'm going to tell you about triangle ABC. I'm going to tell you some specific things about ABC. I'm going to tell you that segment AB, let's say it equals 20. Let's see, they're going to talk to you about segment BC. Let's say segment BC equals 30. And then they'll do segment AC. Let's say it equals 40. We're going to talk to you about triangles and give me different letters, 3 different letters. DEF, okay, triangle DEF. Now, it's going to have this kind of all written out in a line. It's not going to be organized the same way, but they're going to tell you some similar things. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to say DE. Let me see. We're going to say DE is 40. Let's see. Let's say EF. EF is 20. And DF is 30. Okay, all they want you to do is write the congruency statement. So triangle, it's going to start, all of them are going to start with, say, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. This is our answer here. But the important part is what you finish that with. What is triangle ABC congruent to? So what should I do here? Because I think you guys have already caught on that it's probably not triangle DEF. Okay? So what can I do to help myself out and make sure I don't make a mistake? Could I... Well, my suggestion is, okay, I've got ABC, right? And AB is, what, 20? BC is 30, and this is 40, right? Now, come over here. We know that the triangles are congruent because they all have a 20, 30, 40, right? All right, so EF is 20, correct? All right, so if I put these things in the same order, 20, 30, and 40, now I just have to try to get the letters to kind of match up in those orders, right? All right, so DE is 40, EF is 20. So that tells me that E is here because E is attached to 40 and 20, so it's got to be between 20 and 40. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Well, EF is 20, so that would have to be F there, and that leaves D here, right? So ABC is congruent to what? EFD. So the best way to do it is to draw those triangles, and you could do it a little differently. You wouldn't have to draw it so that it matches 20, 20, 30, 30, 40, 40. You could draw both triangles. You can make that ABC and DEF, but your numbers are going to be in different places, and you can still kind of see what goes with what. okay? But the typical trap on this question is where kids just assume ABC is going to match up DEF, or PQR is going to match up XYZ, and it's just always going to match up that way. It doesn't, and that's the trick, okay? So your job is to be aware of said trick. All right, we need to see question 8. 8 is distance formula. Know the distance formula, and they're going to give you coordinates, and I'm not going to work them out. You know, it's going to be something along the lines of, let's say 8, -8. What else might they give you? -3, -4. Now, what I will tell you is that I've given you the same number of negative numbers as you're going to get on the test. Okay, so negatives are what typically kind of throw students for a loop. Do we need to try to practice this question? We're good? Okay. All right. So it's pretty similar, but distance formula shows up probably more than once. Okay, they're going to give you a lot. They're going to give you more information than you really need. They're going to show you something along the lines of, say, something like this. Maybe a coordinate that's, say, -4, 2, and -1, -4. Okay, they're going to ask you to find the midpoint. Okay, so you need to know the distance formula and you need to know the midpoint formula. Do we know the midpoint formula? No, you're thinking of slope. It's add. Add what? x1 plus x2 divide by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. It really does not matter if you make, say that x1, y1, x2, y2, or the other way around, just so long as you keep everything organized, okay? Because the midpoint's going to be the same whether -4 is x1 or -1 is x1. It's going to come out exactly the same, okay? Do we need to work that out, or do we pretty well understand how to do the midpoint formula? It should be an easy question. Okay. All right. Brings us up to about halfway. I told the other class, and I'll tell you guys too, whatever I don't cover, I just don't cover. Okay, we'll cover as much as we can. Now, you have seen this question before. They're going to tell you that B is the midpoint of AC. Okay, A is, let's say, 3, 4. B is, I don't know, -6, 2. Find C. This is one that you guys have had on a test before, but we didn't do very well on it. Okay? You're still using the midpoint formula. The problem is that you're solving for a different part of it. Okay? So, like what we saw in the midpoint formula where we had x2 plus x1 divided by 2, we could say that that equals x3. Okay? And y2 plus y1 divided by 2, we could say that that equals y3. Okay? In this question, we actually know what x3 and y3 are. What we don't know is we don't know what x1 or y1 are. Okay, so we're actually solving for those. Do we need to work through this question? Okay. Let's see. May need to scroll up a little bit and get rid of that. Okay. So we have, and I'm going to go ahead and label them. This is x1, y1, or I guess let's call them x2, y2, so we don't get confused. This is x3, y3. And I'm looking for x1, y1. I don't know what those are, okay? So let's start with what we have. x2 is 3 plus x1 divided by 2 equals -6. Okay? And then do the other part. 4 plus y1 divided by 2 equals 2. Okay? If we get here, can you solve? Do you need help with that? All right. So the first thing that you want to do is you need to get rid of the denominator. How do I get rid of this denominator of 2? Multiply by 2 in both places. Okay? Let's bring it down. Okay? So that cancels out the 2 there. So I get 3 plus x1 equals -12. Subtract 3. x1 equals -15. Okay? Same thing over here. Multiply by 2 on both sides. 4 plus y1 equals 4. Subtract 4, subtract 4, y1 equals 0. So the coordinates of C are -15, 0. This is question number 10. Okay? So again, it's still the midpoint formula, but you have the solution. You're just solving for a different part of it. Okay? All right, let's move on. 11. Okay? Let's see. It's going to give you something like this. Let's say A, B, and C. Okay. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Prove lines A and B are parallel. Yeah, but that won't be enough. It's not enough to say corresponding angles. There's more to the statement. Converse. Okay? Converse of the corresponding angles postulate. Because we're trying to prove that the lines are parallel. If we already knew that the lines were parallel, and we were just trying to prove that lines 1 and 2 were congruent, then we could just say corresponding angles postulate. But because we're trying to prove the lines are parallel, we have to use the converse. Okay? So it'd be good for you to spend some time in Lesson 12. Lesson 12 is your corresponding angles postulates, your alternate interior, alternate exterior, and same side interior angles. Okay? Because in the test, they could just as easily say, you know, angles 1 and 3 are congruent. In which case, we wouldn't use corresponding angles. What would we use there? 1 and 3. No. No, I've said 1 and 3 are congruent. If angles 1 and angles 3 and angle 3 are congruent, then how can I prove that those two lines are parallel? The converse of the alternate exterior angles postulate. Okay? So you need to know alternate exterior, alternate interior. You know, they could have said something along the lines of Angle 4 and angle 2, that would be alternate interior. So we would say converse of the alternate interior angles postulate. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, same basic principle. Okay, except this time with some math. Let's see, they'll give you angle 1 and angle 2, something like that. Okay. We want to prove, well, let's call this A and B again. Let's see. Angle 1 equals, say 4x plus 40. Angle 2 equals, let's say 10x minus 20. I don't know if that'll work or not. And, gosh, I don't know, because I'm just making some stuff up here. Let me try something else. Say x equals 40. I don't know if that'll work. But we want to prove that those two lines are parallel. What do I do first? Okay, plug x in. So 6 times 40 minus 60. So these are probably numbers that don't actually work. 6 times 40 is what? 240? 240 minus 60. So that doesn't actually work, but let's just play with it for now. Okay, because honestly it couldn't be, I mean, you can't, it'd be a straight line if it was 180 degrees. But what's 10 times 40? Be what, 400? Okay, 400 minus 20, 380. So it doesn't actually work. Okay, so in the actual question itself, they're going to give you different numbers for angles 1 and angles 2. Okay, and they're going to give you a number for x that whenever I plug it in actually causes the two things to be congruent. So because those two things are congruent, we're going to say the converse of the alternate interior angles postulate. Okay, that's what we're looking for here. But first we have to show that those two things are congruent. And in the question, they will be. In this made up stuff, it didn't work. Okay? All right, 13. Okay, here you're going to get a word problem. Yeah, it's going to talk about a freezer and temperature. Okay, it's a freezer temperature, and it's going to talk about its temperature is decreasing. Okay, temp decreases, say, 4 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. Okay. Let's see, what else does it say? It says whenever it was first measured, that first temperature measured was, let's say, 48 degrees at first measure. This isn't as hard as it seems. Okay. It says write a linear function that describes the relationship between the temperature and the time, then make a graph showing this relationship. All right, so basically what they're looking for is kind of like a temperature over time. Okay, so we would have time down here, we'd have temp up here. What number up here represents the y-axis or the y-intercept? 48 degrees. So it's going to start up about here, about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to go down over time, right? Over time this way. So it's going to go down at 4 degrees every hour. So we're going to have, something that looks like this. Y equals negative 4x plus 48, right? Because it's going down 4 over 1. It's going down 4 degrees for every hour. So granted, this isn't to scale or anything like that, but you might see it go like that depending upon how your scale was. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to have the correct equation, and you're going to have a similar looking graph. Okay, 14. What time are we out of here? 10. 8 minutes. 8 to. All right. It's going to talk about a right triangle. Let's see. In a right triangle, an acute angle measured. Give me a number in the teens. 13.6 degrees. Okay. What's the measure of the other acute angle? What does the other acute angle measure? What do you say? 15.3? Oh, no. All right, so that's kind of a longer way of going about it. She said 90, because we know it's a right triangle, plus, we can do it down here, I guess, plus 13.6. Okay, we'll get 0.63, what's it? 103.6, and then from there you subtract that from 180, right? So we got 180.0 minus 103.6. 76.4 degrees. There is a quicker way of getting there, okay? We know that there's 180 degrees in every triangle, right? So the moment that I know that 90 degrees are spoken for, the two angles always have to share 90 degrees, right? So I can always just take 90 and subtract 13.6 from it. What did we say? 76.4. So I don't have to add to 90 and then subtract from 180. All I have to do is subtract from 90. Okay? But I'm not subtracting 90 from the right angle. I'm subtracting 90 from the remaining degrees left after that 90 degrees has been picked over, right? Does that make sense? You kind of see a shorter way to get there? That's fine. You want to be better safe than sorry. You still get 76.4 either way, so you're not going to hurt my feelings. I just know that sometimes on these tests, you know, if we're working really hard on certain questions, then we run out of time. And so I want you to be able to do things quickly. All right, this is a good question. Okay. Again, I don't know that I'm going to give you... Okay. Yeah, it's 2x plus 7. The question is going to be something like, find the measure of angle A. So what do I do here? Of angle A. Angle A plus angle B equals 106. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So 3x minus 4 plus 2x plus 7 equals 106. Okay, that's going to help you solve for x. Okay, combine like terms. 3x and 2x is 5x. Negative 4 and 7 is positive 3 equals 106. minus 3, 5x equals, 103. So it doesn't come out and kind of nice and neat or anything. What does x equal? What's that? 20.6. All right. So then I'm just plugging that back in right there. 3 times 20.6 minus 4. You get a decimal answer here. I doubt that you'll get a decimal answer on the test, but you did right. You added this angle to this angle and set it equal to my outside angle. Okay? You will have to plug it back in to get your final answer. Yes, it does. You cannot plug it into angle B because you're not told that angle A and angle B are congruent to each other. It says measure angle A. Okay. Okay, that's how we know. Yeah, one of the options will be the answer to the other angle. Okay. I want to go. Yeah, area of a rhombus, you need to know area of a rhombus. This isn't question, it's like question 19. It is diagonal 1 times diagonal 2 divided by 2. I'm going to tell you right now, the most missed part of this question is dividing by 2. Okay, because they're going to give you like a diagonal 1 that's like 4x plus 2, and a diagonal 2 that's going to be like, I don't know, 3x plus 6. Okay, obviously, whenever I multiply those, I'm going to get a quadratic equation, right? Because I'm going to FOIL them. And so people go through all the FOIL process and they get all that right, but then they forget to divide all those terms by 2. Okay, I'll just tell you what you'll do wrong right now. Okay, hopefully you'll avoid it. All right, and let's see if I can look at question 20 just briefly. Okay, it's going to tell you about, okay, we had a question a while back about a TV screen, and it talked about the diagonal, let's say it's like 20.2, but then it tells you about the ratio of the other two sides, of the length and the width, okay? It might have a ratio, if it says it has a ratio of 3 to 4, okay, then this is 3x and this is 4x. Okay, at that point I should be able to solve that, okay, because I'm going to do something along the lines of 3x squared plus 4x squared equals 20.2 squared. I'm going to solve for x. Now what it's going to ask, let's see, what are the, okay, so it's only going to ask what the width and the height are. So after you solve for x, plug it back in here and here, okay, to get your length and width. Right, but what it's going to tell you is it's going to say that the ratio of the length to width is something like that, okay? You're going to have to plug these in down here. That has to go in parentheses because if you do this, all right, you're just going to end up adding, you're going to get 7x squared, right? Instead of 9 and 60, instead of 25x squared like you should, okay? So do not do that. All right, that's about as much as I can give you. I'll get all that sent out as soon as I can.